YouTube comments from a video titled, "How much food can I grow in 1 year?" Part 8.
At Death by Farts wrote,
You probably should have compared your produce to something like artisan produce, instead of supermarket produce. It's a vastly different product, which I'm sure you will agree with after having tasted your own homegrown produce. D.
At Ryan Hampson 673 wrote,
I had a similar raised bed garden when I lived in North Carolina. I grew carrots, tomatoes, squash, and jalapenos. I miscalculated in the fertilizer and put too much phosphorus, which seems to stunt the carrots to the size of my little finger. But the jalapenos exploded. I had 4 tiny plants at the beginning, and they were nearly small trees in a few months. I didn't realize how many peppers come from a single plant. I had 2 garbage bags full of jalapenos. The other fact was, while the extra fertilizer stunted some of the other veggies, it had the effect of stressing the jalapeno plants. When jalapeno plants are stressed, they produce more capsaicin. I had created the hottest jalapenos I have ever tasted. Nothing record-breaking, but significantly hotter than when you normally get. I always love surprising friends that but into one, and then they are like, whoa, what the?
At Frederick Bowdler 8169 wrote,
A truthful account next year will be interesting plant flowers and fruits for the bees. Fruit trees well established can give very good return for low initial investment.
At Frederick Bowdler 8169 wrote,
The biggest problem with growing food is land degradation. After a few years, all soils, if not fertilized, will limit severely crop size. Compost on its own is rarely enough. In the past, animal manure helped, but animals, of course, have their own inputs. With a very low population, leaving a field for a year or so helped. Guano ships helped a lot. So I am changing my attitude towards fertilizers and using them very sparingly, along with manure, compost, liquid feeds. True mixed farming is a great idea, for pensioners should be encouraged by government.
At I Am Samus Me wrote,
Cool video, presented in an entertaining and wholesome way. Definitely better than if anyone like Mr. Beast did it. No annoying ads, no fake competition, just a dude figuring out how to grow his own veggies.
Zorar 2769 wrote,
I started a small garden for my patio apartment in Southern California. Lemon tree, avocado, pineapples, onions, potatoes, rosemary, basils, jalapenos, peppers. It's a very good hobby. I just dream about owning a land and start expanding my own garden. And small animals, like chicken, rabbit, goats.
At Bretta Mitchell 9526 wrote,
The slime from slugs is said to have cancer-killing properties. We can donate the message to a party fund for You'll get better and better every year as you continue to garden. Congrats, and enjoy your years to come of growing. Vertical growing helps in small spaces. Cheers.
At Larry 5948 wrote,
I'm confused. Told me that I need a task for our character. Why don't you edge the entire job site? Shovel the entire property, now the yard, then blow and go the entire area. This is why 85% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. No workable business plan. Such a waste of time.
At Dan Koning 777 wrote,
This is the truth regarding what you tried to explain from 443-503 via magic science. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Romans 1:20.
At Miguel 195211 wrote,
Small home gardening is not saving me money. I do it for the satisfaction I get to grow my own tomatoes and peppers, but definitely not saving any significant money.
Kingroil wrote,
Greetings from Germany, my friend. That was a nice video. And during the sea situation, I grew a lot of different chilies and paprikas for the first time. It was amazing. I had hundreds of them, and I only had small space in my balcony. I wish I had a garden like you, but it is a lot of work too. It's great what God did for us. Many people don't realize what a wonder all that life here is. He created, and in the end, He did even more, and saved us by what He did for us sinners on the cross. I subscribe to your Chanel.
At Marku 999 wrote,
Spoiler alert. It will take 3 to 4 years before your garden turns a profit if you're starting from scratch. Especially if you're buying tools and building raised beds. Use broken pallets, which you can find free in some places.
At Brian Matheson Mana wrote,
I can't stop giggling about the warm 15 degrees. I live in Montana. Our high this year was 44, our low was -31. We can only grow wheat and cows.
At Kirill 2525 wrote,
Don't know why you didn't take the greens off the onions and put them in the fridge or something. They are very delicious. Just treeing them out is like throwing away half the crop. They are my fave to chop into potatoes or anything really. Sometimes I just eat one by itself. That being said, can also try to grow some herbs or spices. Mushrooms are also quite fun.
At Annette Jeeves wrote,
Just watched Carl's video on prepping the garden for his pond and all your raised beds being removed too. My heart sank a little for you, but still, it is a skill you will only get better at, and this was a great start.
At Mark Carline wrote,
Great video. Can I suggest that you have a look at growing potatoes in 30L tubs? I switched to trying those last year, and the results per SQM are amazing.
At Amy Wickhouse wrote,
Don't forget you also know if there were pesticides or other things sprayed on your crops. You also know that if you use good soil, that there are probably more nutrients in your produce than if it is grown in nutrient-depleted soil. Plus, don't discount the joy that you feel when you see the first sprouts break ground. It really is a great feeling.
At BDubs79 wrote,
As a grandson of a real potato farmer, it's funny to see how much smaller garden potato are than farm ones that's fertilized and other stuff. Like some of the bigger ones can be the size of your foot or maybe your head.
As Chef Clary 60 wrote,
I only have a small 8x10 apartment patio. I've used containers, but I like the idea of making a raised bed with wood. I have access to old pallets, so won't cost me anything. Thank you.
At Richard Stuvenberg 4618 wrote,
Good to see you are interested in farming. Have you ever heard of the very profitable crop called marijuana? You should check it out. You don't even need a garden for it.
At James Sever 8936 wrote,
The best bang for your buck in a garden is wheat. It grows like crazy whenever in the year and gives an insane amount of food calories compared to things like lettuce.
Zimas wrote,
Damn, those zucchinis, courgettes are huge. Maybe it's something to do with the soil in your town or something. Time to get a patch of land nearby and get to zucchini farming.
At Casual Preparedness 2347 wrote,
To get rid of the slugs, pour a can of cheap beer in a 2-inch deep plastic pan or container. They are attracted to the yeast smell and fall in and drown. Works every time.
At John David 4825 wrote,
With nearly 2,000 comments, I do not know if some of these have already been given. I do agree with everything that Gen 81456 wrote. Some things I would add are 1. Plant some things like carrots and onions over the course of a month, so that you have a variety of fresh vegetables coming in on a regular basis, and not all at once. 2. When the fruit starts to mature, it starts to produce ethylene. Many plants will stop producing flowers and put all of its effort into growing the fruit as large as possible. If you cut them off just as they start to ripen and let them continue to ripen in the conservatory, then you will not only have ripened fruit, but also lots of them. My wife routinely gets sacks of eggplant off of each plant. But then you have to make sure you can deal with 200 eggplants, just saying. That alone started a research project to come up with uses for the hundreds of eggplants she routinely gets from 3 or 4 plants. 3. People have already mentioned solarization using plastic to sterilize the top layer of weeds, and paper mulching using B and W newsprint. Just make sure that any products that you use do not have toxic chemicals in the print. I think that most modern B and W newsprint is soy-based inks, but you can also use brown paper sacks and the like, but there is no telling where the paper comes from and what is in it. You can also purchase organic certified paper mulch rolls. In addition, collect the leaves in winter, spread them out and water them down. They will form a good mulch later you can turn in the spring. 4. You can also set out your seed in milk jug greenhouses. See www.youtube.com and winter sowing. See https://www.youtube.com watch d.v equals j soj urwcq. I do not consider these the best links for the information, but they do go over the basics. You will be able to extend your growing season by weeks and thin out the plants as you transplant them. 5. Since you have 4 real seasons a year, you can pop up a caterpillar tunnel over the plants if you get a late frost, or want to try to keep the garden growing longer. I was able to actually keep 90% of my wife's winter garden in Louisiana, live through the 2021 ice storm that hit Texas and the Gulf Coast. See https://weather.gov. It is fidgety, but you can keep a lot of your garden alive through days of nasty weather. Do keep a watchful eye on the temperature during the day. I was seeing air temperatures of 25 F, and the temp inside of the greenhouse was over 105 F. You will have to open and close it a lot to regulate the temperature. Bonus trick: I use wireless outdoor thermometers and place them around the garden and different heights in the tunnels, and I can monitor them continuously from inside the house. BTW, I have used the same trick, placing these in a plastic bag and sticking them in the freezers during hurricanes and other bad weather, so I know when to fire up the generator to save the food, without having to open up the freezer or refrigerator. 6. Also research companion planing. You should be able to spread out your onions, garlic and flowers like marigolds around the garden. The smelly bits will keep certain bugs from other plants you care about. You can also plant flowers that are actually attractants as sentinel plants that you look for pests like aphids before they hit things you care about. The bit about diatomaceous earth is very good. It is perfectly safe for you and is organic. 7. Do not buy your seeds in packets. Look for farm supplies that sell in bulk. It will cost you as much to purchase an ounce of seeds that you are spending on a single packet. Particularly things like spinach and lettuce, you can harvest them as microgreens or share them with your neighbors and keep using them for a couple of years. You are right. You will end up losing money by gardening over what you can buy things from commercial growers. That said, it is healthy, and you get some exercise, mind, body and spirit, but you will also find that in time you will pick up some tricks and become more efficient. During the pandemic, it was not only what you could get from the stores, but if you could get anything from the stores. Also remember that many people these days live in what are considered food deserts. It is good to have the skills if things continue to go sideways. Best of luck and happy growing.
At Mimi Ashford 5544 wrote,
Wonderful, informative, and entertaining video, Alex. Just found your channel and immediately subbed. You might like a US counterpart, Becky at Acre Homestead here on White Tea. She's been at gardening, preserving, cooking since 21 and has a lot of informative videos about gardening that you would probably like, especially ones from last year.
At Brad Nielsen 6215 wrote,
Not sure if anyone has mentioned this in the comments, but you don't need to plant the whole potatoes. One potato can make 4 to 5 plants. Cut them and make sure there is 1 to 2 eyes on each piece, and they'll grow just fine.
At Hugh Jones 1460 wrote,
Most of your cost has been down to establishing your structure, the raised beds, and the soil. The hard physical work and the pleasure of seeing everything come to fruition is priceless. You will be learning a lot from your experience, and I have been doing it for 25 years. Your raised beds would be better if you doubled their height, especially if you grow potatoes, as they produce up the plant as the plant grows. Onions are best from seeds, as they are biannual, and sets are 1-year-old onions and could bolt during hot weather, so from seeds, which are cheaper and more abundant, can be sown from January in pots, and then put into your father's greenhouse to grow on until planting out in March, as they are cold hardy, like all the onion family, shallots, and garlic. Invest in fleece to cover your freshly planted seedlings until they become established, then fold and store away for reuse. Blood, bone, and seaweed are the best fertilizers to spread annually, before planting, as they are slow-release nitrogen and other nutrients. Remember, raised beds have these washed out during heavy rains. Last but not least, compost. Use all the waste from your plants to compost and spread this on your raised beds when rotted down. This will save on buying fertilizers, and use the YouTube garden videos to learn more from people like myself who have made many mistakes and corrected the following year. Well done and good luck. And one more thing, sow some flowers in amongst the crops. They attract pollinators for the tomatoes, cucumbers, and courgettes. Grow Veg and Charles Dowding are a couple of good sites to watch with a cup of tea for tips and hints.
At Archie Arpeggio wrote,
I hope you compared those prices to organic veggies because yours were that too. If you keep doing that, you will actually get a savings now after spending money for building your garden. If you have compost outside, you will get good compost soil to mix into old soil, and you have more nutrients in the soil for free. Potatoes and carrots usually makes good harvest, even in much more north like Finland. We would need greenhouses for growing tomatoes or cucumbers. Summer season is too short and cold here otherwise.
At Graham 1034 wrote,
I think it would be difficult to save money growing produce in most of Europe due to the massive farming subsidies that keep food prices very low. Here in Canada, just the potatoes, 7.5 kilograms, would be about £30 normally, about CA $3/LB here. Overall, I'd estimate that's at least £150 worth of produce here in Canada. Even more if you compared to organic produce, which is about 50% higher priced.
At San Jacinto 6665 wrote,
In Spain, where I am, the potatoes are cutted in parts with the leaves. We call it crickets, and you can save potatoes. With only one, you can spread some 4 plants en España cortamos las patatas de forma que cada parte tenga al menos un griso, y de esta forma ahorras patas. Y que puedes hacer crecer varias matas de una única patata.
At Regina Cook 2250 wrote,
Let your potatoes grow longer till the plants get brown and die back and harvest them. The cukes look like they got powdery mildew. So be careful, that will spread. You did good, keep going.
At Dead Dancers wrote,
I think in terms of saving money, especially when you include your own time and effort, most food growing is not at all cost effective. It also tends to take way longer than we think while producing more all at once. So we'd either starve to death before the harvest, or there'd be a hell of a lot of food wastage to show for all our efforts. Which is where I guess preserves come into things, which does add more expense. I think even if you only bought seeds and preservatives, sugar, vinegar, salt, and used a worm farm slash compost to recycle waste and ensure fresh new soil and nutrients for the next harvest, it's still not really cost effective. It does feel good to do, though, at least at first.
A KDS Best Game Dev wrote,
I have a small garden myself. Love to see people grow their own stuff. I honestly love the feeling of a good harvest. I started like you, I guess. No clue, just try and read what I can about it. Best way, in my opinion. I honestly had not much hope, but I was super impressed with all the stuff I got from my home grow. Home grow stuff just tastes the best. Love the video?
Gia 101 Tuck 2 wrote,
This is awesome. Another potato trick is to plant in 5-gallon pails. 1 potato per pail. Unfortunately, you have the initial cost of getting the pails, but you never know where you can source some for free or cheap. Works like a charm. Good luck with all your harvesting.
At Bible Basher 9364 wrote,
Nice job. I am right there with you. I discovered how many tomatoes 15 plants produced and found myself turning them into tomato paste. It was too many tomatoes, but the paste condensed them, and I discovered that I love tomato paste. I never appreciated it before, and homemade tomato paste is frickin' delicious compared to store-bought. So much flavor that you can eat it with anything. Combined with that pizza oven be very flavorful paste produced.
At Itsec 2746 wrote,
Well done. Some tips of plants shouldn't be planted in some regions. For example, we can't plant because it will die. Some fruit trees Q&D more than half of our potatoes are eaten by bad guys.
At Low Health 1 wrote,
Making your own food in your garden is a huge money saver if you live in a poor country or if you have a low salary and can barely manage to pay off everything including food.
At A Love Funny M2ND wrote,
Even if successful, it will take years to recoup your investment because wood skyrocketed over the pandemic. How many 0 po in T60 cucumbers do you need to eat before you break even with $140 po in T00 in lumber?
At Fludge 3230 wrote,
Good on you for giving it a go. Enjoyed the video. I am a novice gardener myself and enjoy growing food. One tip I might suggest if you are trying to be cost effective with how much food you can produce is with your potatoes. You can cut them into pieces. As long as the piece has an eye on it, it should sprout. That way you can get multiple plants from one potato. Looking forward to this video for your second year gardening and see if you make improvements. Might also suggest trying companion planting.
At Neil Ataboda 3097 wrote,
Second year will be better. Also learn to seed save, raise plants from own seeds, and make your own compost. Bikashi/regular composting/fermented nettle juice. I also have a very small plot and have their fresh herbs around the crops mangold. Beans, spinach, pumpkins, chili, tomatoes, and then I calculate all as organic. Check out companion planting for higher yield.
At Mrady Madful wrote,
I dug over about 3 square feet of my front garden over 5 years ago. I then planted some seed potatoes around the space. There really is nothing better than watching them grow than harvesting and eating them. The great thing is, though, after that first year I didn't do anything to the space, and yet every summer since, I have had a crop of fresh potatoes. Alex, although the initial outlay was probably costly, It will pay for itself over time. But the best thing is, food you grow yourself always tastes better than the stuff you buy in supermarkets. You got another subby 'cause of this vlog, mate. Keep up the good work and remember, learning is what life is all about.
At Mark Sullivan 6319 wrote,
Not sure if you did or not, but next time you might want to use pressure-treated wood, then stain it before putting it in the ground, so it lasts 40 years instead of 1 to 3 years before rotting in the ground. Or better yet, torch the wood till it has a scale look to it before putting it in the ground. That way it will last 50 to 80 years.
At 4LG00DTH1ing5 wrote,
Fun fact: potatoes are part of the deadly nightshade family. If those spuds are exposed to sunlight during the growing period, they will be extremely poisonous. They do not need light to sprout, so please do not allow them to sit in a sunroom or greenhouse before planting them. You can tell if they've become poisonous by the distinctive green hue as opposed to the normal brown hue.
At NOI Rothschild wrote,
This just inspired me to do exactly the same at our place. At the same time, I could teach my kids and give them an understanding of this topic. Good content.
At MLB 9000 wrote,
I heard that copper tape is a good humane slug deterrent as they can't cross over it. You would need a lot of it to go around the entire bed though, and it does wear out. Also, slugs can live in the soil where you can't see them, and you can end up trapping them in the beds with the tape if you don't make sure they're out first. There's a great program on BBC Radio 4 you can listen to called Gardener's Question Time that has a lot of useful information too. Happy gardening.
At the Hork2 wrote,
As far as I know, it's better to get ducks instead of chickens, as chickens will destroy your garden as well, while ducks are quite happy to search for pests in thick vegetation.
At 808 Kualoha wrote,
If the goal is to save money by gardening, I would suggest next time planting things that are more expensive, like herbs, and planting something that you can trim and eat as you like without digging it up, like lettuce and green onions. Onions are very cheap in the market, so it's usually don't suggest planting them. It's not worth the time and garden space in my opinion. With research and better planning ahead of time, you'll save more money.
At Samuelniad 3773 wrote,
I know it's been 11 months since this video came out. If your oven collapses again, then next time put a type of metal reinforcement in the concrete layer. Chicken wire might work.
A human being with feelings wrote,
Did you compare the prices of organic veggies or the normal ones? That's an important thing, especially taking into account its impact on our health, which is way more important than money BTW.
A Kylezero_vlog wrote,
No profit THE reason WHYYO you never use ANY recycled materials INTHE Philippines I grew tomato I know you are mini garden I only spent money FORONE tomato then IT multiply TO many tomatoes THE good thing WAS I never spent anything from MY po CKET just THE price FONE fresh tomato which is very cheap when I could possibly harvest more than the price I invested. What? Invested? Silly, isn't it?
At RickRack4812 wrote,
In August you could have probably planted some kale and parsley and Swiss chard and the like. Maybe even some collard greens as a winter garden, and you could have probably grew a decent crop because they are cold hardy, and I think over in the UK or Novembers are pretty good. Worst case scenarios, you put up some sticks or hoops and put some plastic over it, and to keep more heat in, and have many greenhouses over your beds.
At RickRack4812 wrote,
Regardless of how long did they say it takes to grow potatoes or anything else,
That is very weather and climate and temperature dependent. If you want baked potatoes that are proper and right, wait until the green tops go limp and browning. At that time, the tops are not doing any more work.
At SheWolf2584 wrote,
There are a lot of things you missed in your configurations that make growing your own food more cost-effective than you think. Also, here in the US, you have regular food and organic food. Your food would have to be compared to the organic prices, which is way more expensive. I love seeing younger people taking such an interest in being more self-sufficient and healthier. Keep up the great work, because the longer you do it, the more cost-effective it becomes. Make sure you learn how to harvest your own seeds from your crops. It's a real money saver.
At PeterGrant5626 wrote,
I use a power planter mini auger in a battery-powered electric drill. The 6-inch long, 2-inch diameter, 150 millimeters x 50 millimeters. One is quite useful, or for a bigger drill, use a 12 or 24-inch one to turn your soil. It can also be used to drill holes for fresh soil in bigger pots around the edges. Lifetime guarantee.
As Zaxton wrote,
I usually see PPL plant chunks of potato, not the whole thing, because apparently you run the risk of causing potato blight. I also highly recommend getting some winter crops or soybeans, preferably soy, and rotate which planter gets what, because soy reintroduces nitrates back into the soil.
At Marjadana9313 wrote,
Your true reality is that you have gained more because you have gained so much more than the food you grew. And by actually seeing it, Theo, you have given yourself more years of life and savings.
Embalmery wrote,
Alex, you can cut a half of beer can, or any aluminum can, and put beer in it, and slug love the yeast that will fall in and drown due to intoxication, or add eggshells to it. They don't like it cause it cuts them.
At Isoftheservino3366 wrote,
Could your courgettes have fallen prey to squash vine borers? They're an absolute scourge where I live, and nearly impossible to prevent or kill. Luckily, squash from the muscata family, like butternuts and tromboncinos, are resistant to squash vine borer damage.
At Mithril1584 wrote,
There is a YouTube channel called Town Sends. The creators there make content around the lives of early colonial Americans. They actually do an episode about making a clay oven, www.com. I think it would be worth the watch. It may help increase the integrity of your own clay oven, should it succumb to excess moisture again in the future.
As Super Bartet wrote,
The answer to your slug problem is take a small container, bury it in the ground so the rim is level with the surface, and fill it with beer. The slugs love it. The slugs will get pee out of their minds and die happy, and some will drown in the beer. It's a nice way to kill them.
At Minkademko2335 wrote,
The finger test works fine if you do it every day, but be extra vigilant on dry, windy days. Also, about the raised bed, to solve the sole problem. When the roots reach the bad soil, they may not like it. I've found combining good soil and compost into the bad helps reduce any shock to the roots when they touch solid bad soil. Good luck with your garden. The learning curve is a lifetime event.
Vimsey wrote,
You forgot to mention that homegrown food might not save a lot of money, but no bug poison and chemicals were used, so it is much, much, much healthier. And you might postpone getting cancer a few years, B.
As Chevy Monster 203 wrote,
The white dust-like stuff that is a big pest for cucumbers, squash, zucchini, and any other vegetable with big leafy leaves is a fungi. It occurs when there is a lot of rain or high moisture. For me in the east coast of the states, it usually happens later on in the season, around September, but we get hot summers, so it doesn't affect the harvest very much.
As Saturiankazard wrote,
Simple solution for the slug problem. Put a thick layer 4 to 6 millimeters deep, 2 centimeters wide of salt all around the garden bed. Just remember to put something underneath the salt, holding it in place and preventing the salt from going into the soil.
Ed Vincent 1982 wrote,
I don't call it a rule, but one thing I did in my own garden to maximize the limited space I had was to stake everything that would grow as a vine plant. First, consider the direction of the sunlight that your plants are getting, and then any vegetable that grows as a vining plant. I always put the stakes, example tomatoes, to the back of the garden, and put 6-foot, I don't think in metric, stakes along that back part of the garden. I also always use nylon stockings to help the plants as they grew stay in place on the stakes. Reason? The nylon stretch so that you don't have any worry about a plant being strangled. Then anything else I was planting, I put in front of the vine row in order of average height, so that all plants got relatively equal sun daily. For the slugs, a simple solution is to, strange as it may sound, take lids from old jars, like a lid from a jar of pickles. Any old jars that have lids, save them, and then put them throughout your garden, and pour a little beer into them. It seems weird, but I know from experience this works. The slugs are attracted to the beer, and basically they crawl into the lids, get drunk, and drown. I staked everything that I could in my garden and always had amazing results. I remember one year I had found a way to stake up a cabbage plant, and by the time I harvested it, I had a 15-pound head of cabbage. My father-in-law thought it was hollow, but when we cut in half, he found that it was solid all the way through. Plant a few flowers around the area. Ones that attracted beneficial insects, they are a great boon to any garden and help with pollination, and some also help with unwanted bugs. Just a few ideas that I know from experience work. It can help your efforts to grow more in less space.
At Noobmaster 31 wrote,
Initial costs will always be higher when it comes to gardening. Once you have the infrastructure and know-how, the costs drop drastically. Next year, the costs will probably be less than half what it was in this video. I don't own a house, but I do have indoor herbs, and buying the pot, seeds, and soil are initially pricey. But now I really only need to buy new soil every so often, and I can keep herbs propagated all year round. My main concern is minimizing the costs to keep everything going. Herbs in the US are expensive, so I've broken even a long time ago.
Adrenian wrote,
Alex, it's mid-February and my vegetable patch will have to be delayed still. Me, a person living in Canada. It's mid-April and I can't plant anything outside for another month.
At Simple Homestead Living wrote,
Along that fence, closest to the house, I'd have a fruit tree espalier. There might be room for 2 dwarf trees there. Also some cane fruit. I'd bet the flatmates wouldn't mind if you had strawberries in a narrow raised bed in other places, too. Who can deny strawberries? LOL.
At David Mills 1874 wrote,
The size potato you plant is the size potato you'll get, and if you use a big potato from the grocery store, you can cut into pieces and get more plants.
At John Casey 5594 wrote,
I am a prepper. I have a little over a year's worth of frozen and staple food. I thought about making a garden, but after a little research, I discovered you would need at least 3,000 sqft of garden to feed one person for a year. Also, I imagine that is based on the US climate and not Canada where I live. If you have a few acres, maybe you could live on what you grow, but other than that, no. Other people say fine, you should grow whatever garden you can to supplement your food supply. As you quite correctly discovered, it often costs more to grow food than to simply buy it. One more major factor in a survival situation, you have to consider calories. If you expend more calories to grow food than the food provides you, what's the point? I may be convinced to grow potatoes because of how easy they are to grow and the calories they provide, but that is about it.
Rob Norton wrote,
Wow, just now seeing this. Great job for the first harvest. It's how you learn and grow. You find what grows best in your area. I supplement the most expensive foods for me to purchase. I stay away from onions and garlic mostly. I do have specialties I like, as they are a dime a dozen.
The Noob 187 wrote,
So every time you're put in handcuffs, they are being racist. So wearing cuffs is a coloured thing. SDFU about colour and race, and there will be less said about it.
Cecilia Seg 64 wrote,
It will depend on what you defined as food. If you talk about calories obtained from that harvest, you may think you're getting your effort's value. Now, if you take into account what your body can do with that, it's an altogether different thing. Many of that produce cannot be utilized by your body, and on top of that it has compounds that compete with animal-based products which are bioavailable and required by your body. I leave the rest to you to decide. Do your research and do not fall for facts based on misleading information.
Videocog 5896 wrote,
No one can make profit in first time itself, beck of investment costs. But you'll get more and more profits down the lane. More importantly, it'll be very useful during recession when prices of food goes up or are unaffordable or not available at all in the market. The knowledge you've gained in such situations will be priceless. Keep farming. Teach others too.
Rioter wrote,
FYI, no need to plant a whole potato. Each eye grows one plant. So cut up the potato with a paring knife to get several or more starters out of a single potato, and you can do quite a row with a small bag.
Destroyer of Worlds 2239 wrote,
Glad I discovered this video 11 months after it was uploaded. I hope there's a part 2 where he shows how much he got this year. Growing in your own garden is perhaps not very good economy-wise, but as a pastime, it's really great because it rewards you with free and healthy food.
King of the Crows 8802 wrote,
Also, use beer as a slug trap. The smell of fermented beverages. You can bury a cup so it's flush with the topsoil and fill it with beer.
Amina Roy wrote,
This was so fun to watch. I'm sure many people have thrown suggestions and tips to you regarding how to deal with slugs. Boo, what if not? Sprinkle your garden with cracked eggshells. Slugs can't climb over the shells without getting hurt, so they stay away, and the nutrients from the shells will fertilize your soil. You'll have to repeat this process a lot, but if you eat eggs naturally anyway, it's a good, cheap, eco-friendly solution.
Deborah Meeker 8413 wrote,
Put a pie tin with beer in it. The slugs like the yeast. Then you can kill or let them drown in the beer. Trick my mom used.
K 8660 wrote,
BTW. Looks like salt got in that cement. If you want a round dome, get a huge balloon ball and fill W water and place it on the wet cement and fill more till you get desired circumference.
K 8660 wrote,
Potato eyes always sprout. My dad would cut a potato with many eyes up in pieces rather than the whole potato. We got many. Also, peanuts is easy and great. He would soak them in a wet paper towel till they sprouted, and then the egg carton routine. Then dirt.
Schubert 9938 wrote,
I love these vids about growing food in your backyard. I always wonder how much more homegrown food costs by the time you add everything up, though. Must be expensive because you don't have the economies of scale and subsidies that farms have.
At Frank Vandelin 6524 wrote,
How about indoor growing? Down in the Antarctica Research Station, they have a big indoor grow facility. Right down. I trimmed horses for a gal who worked there. When I asked her how that was working, she said, "How did you know about that?" Low.
At Technics 6215 wrote,
Awesome. Good to see when someone posts a video on YouTube about doing normal things that a normal person should do, instead of dumb, useless videos about how awesome / extreme / big fast something is.
At One, God One, Truth One, Life One, Forever wrote,
I grew up on a working vegetable farm. Tomatoes was the primary crop. Potato pickup day was a family event and something I looked forward to. It was fun watching you dig up your little treasures.
At Jack McLean 1826 wrote,
Can you save money? Probably not. It must be fun, and you must like to eat your own produce. You can buy a lot of potatoes for the price of the wood framing and the bags of soil shown here. If you do it only for money, get a job.
Etharding 2870 wrote,
I would love to do this, but it's impossible to grow things here. We have many deer in the neighborhood and they quickly find and decimate any edible plant life. They kill my roses, my hostas, my lilies, blueberry shrubs, sunflowers, etc., etc. Filling my yard with barbed wire or spraying deer repellent also repels people. Every 48 hours is also not a real option. So, just a lawn that needs little mowing because of all the grazing.
At Kelly O'Neill 5498 wrote,
Potatoes could have been divided and allowed to scab over, doubling or even quadrupling the number of plants if you so wanted, so long as each piece had one or more growing eyes. If you have some small potatoes left in your beds, they also grow next season. Tomatoes and potatoes, to a much lesser degree, are heavy feeders on calcium, without which they can suffer blossom and wilt or just fail to grow, and also be more susceptible to disease. Putting eggshells in your raised beds and also milking your beds add milk to water, if you have milk go off, can provide biologically accessible calcium for your plants. You can lay indeterminate tomato plants sideways in a shallow trench with their branches up out of the soil. The plant will root along the entire length of the main stem and develop a massively larger root structure and be more productive. Keep tomato and potato plants apart, as tomato diseases can also infect your potatoes. You can replant the ends of spring onions, green onions. An inch or a couple centimeters is enough, and they will regrow.
At Noir 1001 wrote,
Get a compost heap on the go. You can throw all the kitchen scraps and parts of the plants you don't eat onto it, and it'll turn it into amazing quality compost for free.
At Jennifer's Journey 7565 wrote,
I got my tomatoes and peppers and catnip started in November and managed to germinate a few apple seeds. I knew peppers needed a longer growing seasons, so instead of trying to overwinter them next year, I decided to start early, so we'll see how they go.
At Lovelalip Bonesalve Wolf 2198 wrote,
I remember a few years ago, my dad tried to grow some tomatoes, but Simone kept destroying them. Like they just smashed them on the ground to far away from where they were planted. After that, I never really heard of my dad trying to grow any vegetables.
At Greg 3248 wrote,
You can save money by letting some of your crop flower for future seeds. Soil and beds will be amortized over a longer period, lowering that cost every year. Don't forget next year to rotate crops. And for the slugs, yes, to chickens, they also lay eggs, and in the meantime, salt can create a natural barrier between your beds and the slugs.
At Dyked 1639 wrote,
Your one-time costs need to be averaged over the useful time you will be using them. Also, now you have learned a lot. I can hardly wait to see what you do this year. BTW, when you harvest your first potatoes, do not harvest them in a row at harvest one plant, then skip a plant and harvest the next one. Only harvest the amount you will be eating immediately, at least till the growing season is over. During non-grow months, try to put dead leaves and other organic materials on your grow plots. Try putting a few garlic in the ground in late September. Leave the carrots in the ground, pick them only as you use them.
Crazy Zero wrote.
Canning your harvest and preserving it is the best way to live self-sufficient because you'll be able to grow much more than what you need, and the rest is going to be preserved for days with no harvest. It'll be wonderful if you'll be able to do so. And look into r/canning for canning safe and detailed instructions.
Atlassie43 wrote.
Fresh potatoes do not even need to be peeled. The skin is so fresh that it loosens up in water and can be just rinsed away with hands.
At Warthog ARJ wrote.
Fun video. Would be interesting to see what the max theoretical yield would be from your space. I'm sure you can get values from commercial farming textbooks at sea that will say expected yield per M2 for your various crops. In addition, I think you'd be best off doing some sort of greenhouse or maybe hydroponics type growing. Something that gives you optimum yields for your resources. You've got a very small area, but very low labor charge. You have assigned 0 for labor rate. I think your goal would be to get at least 2, if not 3 crops per year with a greenhouse type setup.
At Jack Boris 5474 wrote.
I reckon you'll have to Magnus price triple or maybe 4 times more because are the best quality organic you. Didn't use any chemicals this veggies will cost for don't compare rubbish from your local supermarket or even organic farms. Because organics farms operating big government norm what they allowed the farming people to do. Your veggies are 100% organic. Veggies from commercial organic farm maybe 60% organic man excellent job for first time. Potatoes you have put much deeper when they start shooting the green leaves 10 centimeters above the ground. You have to put soil on top. Just leave it couple leaves on top. You have to do this process 3x this way. You're going to have more potatoes. You can use banana skin, rotten bananas, mash them in food processor, chuck in full bucket of, and leave it for fermentation when the bubbling stops. Then you can use half a liter of this mixture bucket of water. Natural potassium. If you want bigger, there needs lots of food.
At Beepup 8184 wrote.
Not sure you will check the comments, but how much did you spend on water? In my place, water costs around €5 per cubic meter, both water itself and sewage, which can be a lot if you consider using tap water during the whole vegetation period.
At Raynoder wrote.
Good idea growing your plants yourself. I think tomatoes are a hard thing to grow. My father has struggled to get good tomatoes for years here in Estonia. And they still are crappy ones. One end is beautiful and red, while stem side is green and hard. I am starting to think that Estonia is not suitable region for tomatoes. My wife said that best tomatoes she's eaten while on trip to Spain. Strangely enough, Estonian supermarkets sell Spanish and Dutch tomatoes, but they are completely tasteless. I call them plastic tomatoes.
At Rizalkarim 7703 wrote.
ID doesn't matter if you lose money or not by growing your own vegetables. It's the appreciation for the food we buy and eat that counts the most.